Welcome to part 3 of Kitchen Backsplash Tile Installation. Today we will be highlighting how to keep your pattern after an obstacle such as an outlet or a window. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. We're ready to get these installed. I bought one of these little plastic squeegees and cut it down to help assist me in getting some of this in here because it's going to be so difficult to get it on the thickness that I want. I want this side 3/16. So not too much, but just enough to get the tile up there. That looks pretty good to me. Same thing over here. Some of this I can put in with a putty knife and then scrape it down. Get it a little bit heavier. There's just not a lot of room in there, makes it a little tough. Alright, we'll get this one set in. There we go. Get this one set in. There we go. I like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this coated up good because I've got all these ready to go. I'm just going to go over it with the 3/16. And there we have it. So I'll go ahead, I'll get these in. And we'll come back and get some more cutting and some more pieces put in. I'm ready to get some more tile in, and I just wanted to come back and show you how we're going to stay on pattern once we get to this side of the window frame right here to keep our 1/3 pattern going. And I'm also going to show you a profile gauge for the angles as opposed to what we did here. I struggled a little bit with this piece because this piece right here, because I don't do tile all the time, but it looks great. So I just thought I would get out my profile gauge and try to show a little something different right here. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we stay on pattern. So meaning that this tile ends here, but now I'm starting fresh right here on this edge. So I need to emulate this straight up the wall. And there's a couple of ways we can do that, because this next piece needs to end right here somewhere. So we can do that with a carpenter square. We can line it up just like that and scribe us a line and know that that piece needs to end right there. So unfortunately the next piece is going to be a little bit small, but that's okay. Or we can use the laser and we can do it that way. So we'll set it just to the inside of that tile, pull it back a little bit, and that'll give me a line right on the wall. So that's a lot easier for me to mark to get my measurements off of. So I would just go to the outside of that red line and draw me a little line right there. That's where my tile needs to end. Then there'll be another one around in here somewhere. So that'll be easy lines for me to measure to, and an easy way to do it. If you don't have one of these lasers, you should get one. If you do any handy stuff around the house, these come in. I've used it more than I ever thought I would. So now we need to get this piece of tile cut to fit in here. So I want it flush with this line because I'm tight to the inside of this one. So let's get this out of the way. Now if we want to, we could use this profile gauge. And what you would do is you would set it to the tight bottom of this tile and push it over, trying to keep it as straight as you can get it to something like that. I'm going to push this bottom in just a little bit further. And that would give us the profile that we need for this piece of tile. Now we have to remember that we need a 1/8 inch spacing, but we're going to have to remove an 1/8 inch here and an 1/8 inch from the bottom. So this would be tight to the bottom. So it would be drawn on there to where I don't even think we're going to need to remove much from this top. Yeah, just a little bit. So let me get some tape on here and we'll transfer that over. I'm going to have to get a measurement on here before I can put my tape on my tile to draw the lines. And we are at 9/16 of an inch. Once we take away our 1/8 inch, we'll be at 9/16, which is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape on this tile in that area. 1 9/16. So that 1 9/16 is going to be the total length of this piece of tile. Remembering that we have to cut off of this side, not the finished side. So there we have it, 1 9/16. Now when we use our profile gauge, we can use it just like that. However, we have to provide clearance up here for this area down here because we're coming in tight. So both of these will have to be clearanced. So what we would do is scribe our line up the tile. Now here we're going to want to come down 1/4 of an inch because the tile is moving up. I need to put another little piece of tape so we can get that one. So we're going to want to come down off of this line 1/4 of an inch, which in our case is going to be 3 inches. And we'll come back to our profile gauge and we're going to get this line. Now we're going to line it up like this, and that's going to tell us our depth here and where we need to trim it. So there we have it. We're going to take off this, this, and this. So let me go out to the saw and take that off, and then we'll see how it fits. I've got the piece cut, and we'll see how it's going to fit here. A little hard to grab a hold of. Here, let's try and get these under here. Trying to give you the best view, and it makes it a little tougher for me. So I want to be right on that line. So I'm pretty happy with that. I could nudge it in just a little bit. Nobody will notice. I'm going to be about right there. Nobody will notice a 1/16 of an inch in your pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and just tape that on there, because now we'll run a full piece off of that, but it's going to end at this electrical box. So then what we're going to have to do is re-evaluate and remark our pattern again so we know how long the piece needs to be on the other side of this electrical box, which would be right here. Turn on the so that is right to the inside. So we're just going to go ahead and draw a line right here to get our measurement from. So that way we know where we need to be to keep our pattern the same. So then my next piece will have to be here up on top of this. So it's going to need a little bit removed from it. Some of the pieces are 11 3/4. So yep, it's going to need a little bit removed from it. So it'll have about 3 inches or so taken off of it so that it will line up right here. And then the last piece will be adjusted the same way. So let me get a couple of these cut and taped up here. I'm going to cut around this electrical outlet right here, get this piece in, and then I'll get some more of these ready, and we'll come back and that way I can explain a little better how we're going to keep this pattern the same. I got the pieces cut. Now what I did was I just took a measurement from here to here and came over to the edge of the box at 1 3/4 of an inch, and then I used my spacer on the edge of the tile to measure up to it at 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and set that piece in with my spacers. I'm just going to put a little piece of tape on it to hold it there. Now I've done the same thing here because this tile right here I need to line up here, which left me with a 2-inch piece right to the edge. So that piece is right here. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple spacers in that. Nudge it into place. Put a little piece of tape on it. Come this way just a little bit. I'm not worried about a perfect alignment right here because my cover is going to cover all this up when we're all said and done. So that is nothing to worry about. Now I measured from here to here, the same thing. I put the spacer in there and got my measurement. And we'll go ahead and put a couple spacers in here and put this one in place. Something just like that. Now, I'm not worried about the spacers falling out of that piece because now I need to determine where this next piece needs to end, which is right here. And then I need to make a little notch in it for the outlet. And then another little notch in the next piece. Then the rest of these pieces this way will all be full pieces until we get to the end, where we'll wind up with this size and this size. So it'll be that size here, the small one, then that size. So we'll keep our pattern. We'll keep our pattern going. So as you can see, even though this one kind of fell down, that the pattern's going to stay the same. I have this piece cut, so I'm going to go ahead and get that in there, and I've taped in another piece right here because I want to go ahead and cut this one. Then I'll mix up my mud and get going. And then I'll have a general idea how I'm going to cut this. So I'll take the end of this piece and I'll use that to cut my small piece right here. But I need to cut it on the lengthwise also. So if I get this one ready, then I'll be able to mix up mud and this will go pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to put a couple spacers in here. I want to get it the correct space away from the trim. And of course this is a lot easier once the thinset's on the wall because it grabs the tile while you're doing this. And the reason I want to do this is there's so much cutting right here that if I mixed up my thinset and started putting the pieces in and running back and forth, it's so thin on the wall, it would actually start drying, and then I would have to come back and try to figure out, you know, scrape it off or and start over again. So this is just an easier way to keep your progress moving, is to get some of these pieces pre-cut. Now the piece I'm going to use here is going to be a full piece. So, and my measurement should be the same. It was 3/4 of an inch. So I'll get me a couple pieces of tape on here. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark that one at my 3/4 and at my length. And then I'm going to get some thinset mixed up. I'm going to cut this one also. Get some thinset mixed up, and I'm going to get these on. But my pattern throughout is going to remain the same along the entire distance of it, which is important because that's an aesthetic look that you want. So very important to keep everything the same. Alright, I'm going to get these others cut, and in 30 minutes or so I'll come back and show you the progress. All the pieces I've cut are now installed, including this little guy right here. So now I need to get out and get to the saw and cut another piece for here, which will be full length, and then I got to cut this piece so I can continue on. So everything's fitting together really nice and looking good, and pretty happy with how it's going. So we'll be back to get some grouting in and do some caulking. We had a slight little change in plans. In the area right here that I wasn't going to put tile, we have decided to put tile. So what I'm doing is I'm putting on a piece of tile trim. I was not sure how this was going to go, but what I did was I cut the inside part of this out and bent it around the piece of tile. The big box stores do not have available the corner pieces for the bowl nose, so I decided to go with this because it looked like it would be a little easier to bend. Not quite perfect, but it looks pretty good. And then what I did was put a little construction adhesive on here to glue it in, rather than trying to use the thinset to hold it in place. There will be thinset that goes in these grooves, and the tile will go over the top of that, so it'll be secured very nicely when it's all said and done. But I just wanted to show you how I did that, so that if you run into something like this, and they do have many options on this. I actually got this from a tile store, not from the big box stores at all. They didn't have what I wanted in white. So I'll come back and show you how the tile is going to fit in around this, and I have to use this in another spot too, and I'll highlight that as well. I'd like to thank you for watching, and stay tuned next Sunday for the grouting and the caulking of the tile. If you enjoyed yourself, click on a couple of these videos that are going to pop up right here. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Tony Iaconelli and Brett Wimmer, because none of this could happen without them.